Hello, Agnimitra. Good evening. How are you doing? How is everything?
It's good.
Okay, great. So my laptop was facing some problems. I could not paste the link to WhatsApp. That's why it took some time. Okay, so let's start. Let's straight go for the story. Okay, so have you managed to get the syllabus?
No, no, not yet. I will.
Why? Why not?
Actually, you know the reason.
Yes, I know, but you have connection with friends or teachers, right? But you have to know the syllabus, no? Otherwise, how can we proceed?
Give me 2 or 3 days. I will.
Okay, because without the syllabus, we cannot proceed with the texts because we don't know which texts will be there and uh,
No, yeah. So I think first one it will be there. The portrait of the lady.
the portrait of the lady.
Hmm.
I think, have you started with that? The portrait of the lady?
Yeah, we have.
We had started with that. I can remember that. The portrait of the lady. It is a story about uh, we were talking about grandmothers and we were talking about this stuff. So this story is about a grandmother. The author's grandmother. And the portrait of the eponymous lady who is talked about in the title is this lady, the grandmother. So let's again start reading the story, okay?
Okay.
Let's read it. You will read it loudly and with emotion. After that, after we finish this text, I will give you a summary and some notes on this chapter, okay?
Okay. The portrait of a lady. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
My grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for the 20 years that I had known her. People said that she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband. But that was hard to believe. My grandmother's portrait hung above the mantelpiece in the drawing room.
Hung, not hang. Hung. It's a past form of hang.
Hung above the metal piece in the drawing room. My grandfather, my grandfather's portrait hung above the metal piece in the drawing room. He wore his long white beard covered the breast part of his chest, and he looked at least 100 years old.
Years old, 100 years old. So it is basically an exaggeration. Do you know the word exaggeration? Exaggeration. Let me write it in the chat box.
How he looked like.
Hmm?
Giving a definition. He was giving a definition that how his grandfather looks like.
No, I'm talking about this word, exaggeration. That means bariye bola.
আচ্ছা
Bariye
আচ্ছা
bola.
আচ্ছা
Hmm.
No,
So
I don't know the meaning of exaggeration.
exaggeration. So it means
Exaggeration.
hmm, to say something with extra.
But I can't. Means you are writing something.
Yes, I am writing in the chat box. I will then send it.
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা।
say something with extra explanations that are not true. So the grandfather looked 100 years old. Basically, he did not, could not be 100 years old when the photo was taken, maybe, probably. But মানে বলি না আমরা যেন মনে হচ্ছে যেন 100 বছর কেটে গেছে, but it is not so. We exaggerate. There is another word for it that is called hyperbole. মানে এক কথায় বলতে গেলে this is overstatement. Okay, done. You have very pretty dimples. Yes. Okay. All right. So yeah, then go on. So there can come one very important question that describe the portrait of the grandfather. So remember, the portrait of the grandfather and the portrait of a lady. Is a portrait of a lady is the name of the story. A portrait or a portrait of the grandfather, she portrait. They are two totally different things, aren't they?
So both the grandfather and grandmother, they both are in same frame.
No, I am saying that the word portrait in the title, the portrait of a lady. আর এই যে পোর্ট্রেট টাঙানো আছে একটা, এটা অথর বলছেন যে আমাদের ড্রয়িং রুমে একটা পোর্ট্রেট টাঙানো আছে, সেই পোর্ট্রেট, দিস টু আর ডিফারেন্ট. Why are they different? The story is
the portrait, the meaning of portrait are different.
The meanings of the word portrait are different, because portrait of a lady, the title of the story, that means the description, the story about a lady who is the grandmother of the author. And এইখানে পোর্ট্রেটটা হচ্ছে একটা অ্যাকচুয়াল পোর্ট্রেট, যেটাকে আমরা বলি ফ্রেমে বাঁধানো একটা ছবি. Yes, and this is very important, you can underline it if you may. ওই যে কি বলে গ্র্যান্ডফাদারের যে ডেসক্রিপশনটা আছে, এই যে হোয়াইট বিয়ার্ড, this kind of things. Okay.
He did not look the sort of person who would have a wife or children. He looked as if he could have lot of grandchildren. As for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child. That seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of prophets she used to tell us.
So tell me, what does it mean? So see, the author is writing, yeah, you say?
It means the author want to say that his grandfather looked like he he looked like a grandfather. At that age, he can't be a husband or a father, but a grandfather. His appearance is like a grandfather. He's old.
I am saying that the author, from his childhood, the author has seen the grandmother as she is right now. So the author has no idea, no like image of his grandmother being young. So young and pretty. No. মানে young or pretty সে ধারণাটাই নেই. Grandmother is what she likes. I mean, grandmother is as she is. Not a young, not pretty, not anything. No adjective can describe her actually. And also, there are a few properties that are given here. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child that seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part. And we treated it like the fables of the prophets that she used to tell us. Like, their grandmother was like a prophet. Whatever she said was from 1,000 years back. Okay, like myths and fables, like that, fairy tales of ancient tales. Yeah, then go on.
Revolting means
The thought was almost revolting. Revolt মানে হচ্ছে বিদ্রোহ করা, প্রতিবাদ করা। So revolting মানে গ্র্যান্ডমাদারকে ছোট থেকে দেখে আসছে এরকম wrinkled skin, she is like bent over, short and crisscross of wrinkles there and very old. The thought of her being very young and pretty was almost revolting. I mean, that's not possible, it seems like.
and what about grandfather and what about his grandfather? He can't believe that even
he did not look the sort of person who would have a wife or children. I mean, grandfather যে ছবিটা আছে, grandfather কে most probably the author hadn't seen, only in the portrait. And the portrait, he sees the grandfather and it looks like the grandfather is kind of a person who would never have a wife or a child. মানে দেখে মনে হয় যেন এই লোকটা বা বিয়ে করতে পারে, এই লোকটার বউ আছে, বাচ্চা আছে, দেখে মনে হয় না, মনে হয় যেন খুব কড়া টাইপের লোক, বউ বাচ্চা নেই, এরকম টাইপের দেখে মনে হয়।
she had always been short and fat and slightly bent. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. No, we were certain she had always been as we had no her. Old, no her. Old, so terribly old, that she could not have grown older and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. She could never been pretty, but she was always beautiful.
See, this is a
hobbled-
very, very important sentence. Very important sentence.
She means she was not pretty. Sorry. She could never been pretty, but she was always beautiful.
What does it mean? It's like a juxtapose. I mean, it's a
Beautiful and pretty both are the same, but it is why
it means that conventionally, if anyone else sees his grandmother, would say that it's not a pretty woman, but from the perspective of the author,
he was talking about her grandmother inner self, like she was
not only inner self, it's about whom you love. See, for a mother, her children are always beautiful. For a grandmother, the grandchildren are always beautiful, the most beautiful. Right? What happened?
We heard about that was in Bengali there is a what it could be ওই মায়ের কাছে মায়ের কাছে কানা ছেলে
কানা ছেলেও পদ্মলোচন, exactly. কানা ছেলেও পদ্মলোচন, very good, you have given the right metaphor here. So কানা ছেলেও পদ্মলোচন মানে হচ্ছে even though he cannot see, পদ্মলোচন means the one who has the most beautiful eyes. So for a mother, the children are the most beautiful human beings. Like that, it is also true the other way. I mean, for this grandchild, the author, his grandmother was the most beautiful. Even though she was not pretty in the conventional sense, not pretty, but she was beautiful. Now it's clear? Okay.
She hobbled about the house in a spotless white with one hand resting on her waist to balance her stoop and the other letting
You have to visualize this. Visualize করতে হবে কি এরকম describe করছে, এরকম কোমরে হাত দিয়ে
দাঁড়িয়ে আছে।
তারপর
telling the beards of her rosary. What that?
ভালো করে প্রথম থেকে সেন্টেন্সটা পড়ো আবার। জোরে 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 with feelings. Say it aloud. Read it aloud.
She could never have been pretty, but she was always pretty. She hobbled about the house in the spotless white with one hand resting on her waist. Resting on her waist to balance her stoop, and the other telling the beards of her rosary.
Beards না, beads of her rosary. এই যে বয়স্ক মানুষরা করে না জপের মালা, এরকম 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 করে। সো এক হাতে এরকম কোমরে হাত দিয়ে সাদা শাড়ি পরে, অন্য হাতে জপের মালা জপ করতে করতে she would walk.
Spotless white means সাদা শাড়ি।
Spotless white means a spotless white clothes she would wear. Of course শাড়ি হবে।
Her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale, crooked face. Her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale, crooked face.
Prakaj na. See, read the word. Read the word. Spell it.
Pucked. Puckered.
Puckered. That means wrinkled. Wrinkled.
Puckered face. And her lips constantly moved in inaudible prayers. She was beautiful. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains and expanse of pure white certainty, breathing peace and contentment.
She was like the winter. So beautifully written. So beautiful description of the grandmother. It's nothing. It's more about a very ethereal presence, a very heavenly presence of a human being, of a guardian figure. Then my grandmother and I were good friends.
My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. She said, she said her morning prayer is a monotone, monotonous,
monotonous মানে একঘেয়ে
monotonous sing song while she bathed and dressed me up in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. I listened because I loved her voice but never bothered to learn it. Then she would fetch my wooden slate which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk. A tiny earthen ink pot, and a red pen. Tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. After a breakfast of a thick, stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs.
so she loved
Stale
dogs
chapati?
stale মানে হচ্ছে বাসি
Oh. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayers while the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayers in chorus. My grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. This time, the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapatis we threw to them. When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent on us. That was a turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room,
so
my
what was the
grandmother-
turning point in their friendship
when their parents well settled in city, and they called them to live
complete they
them
hmm.
to live with them.
Yes. Then
When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. That was a turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. Here he is talking about in city. Nah, he was in city, and both her grandmother
Yes.
and he was there.
yes
No longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. For some time, we continued to wake up. She continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me. When I came,
when I
when
came
I
back
came back, when I came back, she would ask me what the teacher.
not ask
Sorry.
ask hmm.
Ask me what the teacher had taught me. I would tell her English word and little things of Western science and learning. The law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. This made her unhappy. She could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the thing they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. To her, music had lured association. It was the monopoly of the harlots and beggars and not meant for gentle folk. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. She rarely talked to me after that. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of a friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her. Like accepted her. Like here S will be silent.
হ্যালো, আমি কিছুতেই মিটিংটা খুলতে পারছি না, এক সেকেন্ড। ক্যান ইউ টেল, হ্যাঁ, ক্যান ইউ টেল মি হোয়াট ইজ দ্য ওয়ার্ড? আমি টেক্সটটা খুলতে পারছি না।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, it was SECLUSION.
Seclusion. Seclusion.
Exclusion.
No, no. Seclusion. Seclusion.
It's a seclusion.
Seclusion it is.
Seclusion.
Then
and the next one, RESIGNATION.
RESI?
RESIGNATION.
Resignation. Resignation. Resignation.
I know. Accepted her seclusion with resignation. Seclusion means?
Seclusion means বেরিয়ে আসা কোনো জায়গা থেকে, আলাদা হয়ে যাওয়া। আর এই যে মানে this thing না, being secluded, being getting out from the life of the grandchildren, one who was very much into their lives. Now she is realizing this is time that we let these children go because they have their own life. So this kind of seclusion, দূরে সরে যাওয়া, defamiliarization, going away, and she happily, not happily, she very কি বলবো, maturely and silently accepted that seclusion. She accepted the seclusion.
My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunshine to sunset, she sat by the wheel, spinning and repeating prayers.
Spell it.
RECITING. Reciting.
Reciting. আবৃত্তি করা।
Oh, recitation.
Recitation, reciting.
She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunshine to sunset, she sat by wheel spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrow. While she sat in the veranda breaking the breads into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable, no, sorry, veritable bedlam of. Oh my God. Ma'am, how to pronounce it? CHIRRUPINGS.
Hmm?
CHIRRUPINGS.
Chirrupings বা চিরপিংস পাখির ডাক কি? পাখির কথা বলা আছে ওখানে? চিরাপিং মানে পাখির কিচিরমিচির আর কি।
Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulder, some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. It used to be happiest half hour of her day on her. Sorry. It should be happiest half hour of the day for her. When I decided to go abroad for further study, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be always away for 5 years, and at her age, one could never tell, but my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Silently, she kissed my forehead, and when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer with frivolous rebuffs. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum, and started to sing. For several hours, she trumpet the sagging skin of the dilapidated
Spell it.
DILAPIDATED DILAPIDATED
Dilapidated.
skin of dilapidated drums and sang of the house coming of the warriors. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid
Dilapidated মানে হচ্ছে জীর্ণ, something that's broken, very worn out. Okay, go on.
we had that was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. The next morning she was taken ill. It was a mild fever and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to prayer. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. We protested, but she ignored our protests. She lay peacefully in the bed, praying and telling her prayers, Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face, and we know that she was dead. We
We know,
lifted
no, we
her
knew.
off. Sorry, we knew that she was dead. We lifted her off the bed and, as in a customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red SHROUD.
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 Shroud. Shrouded আছে না shroud আছে?
Shroud, only shroud.
Say, read the sentence.
We lifted her off the bed and, as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud.
রেড স্ট্রাউড মানে হচ্ছে একটা রেড কাপড় দিয়ে ঢেকে দেওয়া হবে। So she was now dead. It's not a very কি বলবো মানে exciting story. It does not have a climax. It does not have something like that. It is just a description of a life which is extraordinary. Though it is ordinary, still it is extraordinary. The little, man obhiman and the things that this grandmother was so strong a woman. She was a very old woman, but she was very strong. She did not force her grandchildren to do anything. When she came to know that the grandchildren's lives were being different from hers, she let them go. She was busy with her own life. She tried to be happy in her own ways. I have seen my own grandmother like that. For a certain period of time, she is now physically not with us anymore. But I am just saying that for a certain period, she is my best friend. For a certain period of time, she was bedridden. And then sometimes I used to ask her that যে দিদান তোমার ডিপ্রেসড লাগে না, মানে আমাদেরই তো এত কম বয়স এখন কত ডিপ্রেসড লাগে, এত হ্যাপেনিং লাইফ তাও কত ডিপ্রেসড লাগে। দেন শি সেড দ্যাট নো, আমার যখনই কিছু খারাপ লাগে, মন খারাপ লাগে, আমি তোদের ছোট্টবেলার কথা ভাবি, দেন আই বিকাম হ্যাপি, এরকম। সো so little a thing so little thing a woman who is bedridden, who cannot do her own work, and who was a very very active woman. She was a poet, she was a mother of 2 children, she was in a joint family, she suffered from financial problems at this times, and she had to maintain a whole household. She had gone through so much terrible struggles, but still she used to go to the library, and she had finished reading all the books of the local libraries. She would go to the movies whenever she got time with her family members, and she was very fun loving, and she, in one lap she is holding one baby, she is cooking like this, and on the other hand she is holding a book that she is reading. She was thin, very slim, chotokhato woman, beautiful. I mean, we should be inspired from that woman. Like that, these kinds of women, they're very rare and they're going away, right? I mean, we cannot find this kind of women in our generation anymore. Yes. So this story is about that kind of a woman. Well, when my grandmother was bedridden, and then at the end of her life, she was like, everything became so toxic, she was bedridden for a long period of time, and we all got very, I mean, impatient with that. We all were very depressed, frustrated. Sometimes I screamed at her, sometimes there were quarrels. Bad things also happens, as happens in every house. Now I think of that, I feel bad যে এরকম করে কথা বলেছি, কখনো চেঁচিয়ে দিয়েছি, করেছি। But then I think that